Sabatsaki, and this is A Chemist Cooks. You know, chemistry is all about stuff. Combining, mixing, and separating it, heating and cooling it, changing its color, form, texture, volume, consistency, viscosity, look, smell, and feel. But mostly, chemistry is about turning raw materials into useful products, which we all need. Cooking is a lot like that, only you can eat the results, if they're any good. I'll be making a series of videos with recipes and techniques for some classic foods. Some simple, and some a little more complex, but all fun to do. I hope you enjoy them. Thank you so much for watching my video. Today, we'll be making gefilte fish. Gefilte, in German or in Yiddish, means filled or stuffed, and fish means, well, fish. So, we're going to be making stuffed fish. The idea is to take part of the fish, mince it, mix it up with other things, and then stuff it back in the fish. A little bit like deviled eggs, same concept. Gefilte fish was traditionally made by Jews in Europe, and it was usually made from carp, which was very, very common in the rivers and the lakes of Europe. It was made for festive meals, like the Shabbat meal, and for Passover. Very often, you'll find that people only make the stuffing, only the minced fish part, shape it into patties or balls, and cook it. In America, this is called fish balls. But we are going to do this the traditional way, the same way my grandmother did it. We're going to take minced fish, add things to it, stuff the fish, and cook it. So it all starts at the fishmonger. You need 2 medium-sized fish. That's about 2 kilos or 4 pounds each. Carp is great because it's meaty and fatty and doesn't dry out during a long cooking process. But any other fish can also work. First order of business is to ask your fishmonger to clean the fish through the head and not slit the belly open. And so, when he cuts the fish into slices, you end up with these nice rings, which are very, very convenient for stuffing. You can also ask your fishmonger to cut the fish heads lengthwise, and these can also be stuffed. Of course, we have our minced fish. It's about half a kilo, 600 grams here. That's all a 2 kilo fish will give you, about 1 pound of mince, but that's all we need. Also ask your fishmonger to save the bones from the fish that he minced, and this will work very well in our fish stock. We're very lucky that this particular fish was full of roe. These are fish eggs. Delicious. You know, the stuffed fish heads are traditionally served to the head of the household. How subtle is that? We'll be making the fish stock, in which we'll be cooking the fish. A nice shallow pan is better for this, because it's easier to lay the stuffed fish pieces inside. Then about 1.5 liters of tap water. We'll add 1/3 of the onion that we previously chopped. We will also add a teaspoon of pepper, a tablespoon of salt, 3 tablespoons of sugar. Some people like their gefilte fish sweeter, some less. We go with the sweet version. And we will add some carrot. These are 2 medium-sized carrots that have been peeled and cut into rings. Lots of carrot, adds a lot of color. And we'll see later that we can use that to garnish. And finally, what we will do is we will add our fish bones in here. We will now put this on a medium flame and bring it to a gentle boil. And while our fish stock is heating up, we'll get our mince ready. So we'll start by taking about 2/3 of the onion that we chopped, put them into a small bowl. To that we will add 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. This is canola, but any vegetable oil will do. We'll add a tablespoon of salt, and a teaspoon of pepper, 2 fresh eggs, and 1 roughly chopped hard-boiled egg, like so. And very important, 3 tablespoons of sugar. There we are. And we will use a handheld blender, better known as a zhuzher, to mix this all up. That's about the consistency we want. Looks good. So we've put our mince into a large bowl, and into that we will pour that mixture that we prepared, and we'll start some gentle mixing to incorporate these 2 ingredients. To that we'll add about 1/3 cup of matzo meal. Mix that in. And now we'll add 1/2 cup of breadcrumbs. And again, mix that in. Gently does it. Takes a little while for it to incorporate in, for the dry and the wet materials to mix. They will. You don't have to get your hands in there. It's easy enough to do with a spoon. If you want to get your hands in there, of course you can. Okay. Looking at it, needs a little bit more breadcrumbs. I'm going to add about another 1/3 cup. Needs to be not too dry and not too wet, so you can actually make nice patties out of it. So I've added another about 1/4 cup of breadcrumbs. That makes it 3/4 cup in total. And now it looks about right. Because you sometimes have different amounts of mince, a slightly different moisture in the mince, I have to go a little bit by eye to see just how much breadcrumbs you need to add. But this is about the consistency you want. This is what it needs to look like. Flatten it out nicely. And this goes in the fridge for at least an hour to mellow. After that, we'll be forming our fish balls and stuffing our fish. Our fish stock has been simmering for about an hour now, while our fish mince mixture is mellowing in the fridge, looking nice. Get a little bit of caramelization from the sugar that's in there. And we're about ready to put in our fish. We've taken our fish mince mix out of the refrigerator and ready to start stuffing our fish. Isn't that nice? The way we do that is we take our slice of fish and we hold it on the flat of our hand with the head side up. In other words, the top part here is a little bit wider than the bottom part, and that'll hold our filling in nicely. So the way we do this is we wet our hands a little bit. We've got a dish with some water over here. We grab some of this mixture and we pat it in like so. That's about enough. Like that, flip it over, flatten the other side, take off any excess, like so. And that looks good. And that can go in our pot, like so. Careful, that's hot. And we'll just keep going. Here's our next one. Hold it tail side down, head side up. Get some of our mixture. Get our hands a little bit wetter, like so. Very nice. Flip it over. Smooth it out. In it goes. And we just keep going. Well, now gently add our fish roe. Make little balls out of it. And just put it in like so. So with the mince we have left, we'll do two things. First, we'll make some fish balls for people that don't want a whole stuffed fish and just want to have the stuffing by itself. And we'll also use the rest of it to stuff our heads. So here we go. We'll wet our hands. Grab a handful of that, and this is how it's done. Just roll it between our hands like so. Some people make them bigger, some people make them smaller. Flatten them out a little bit like so, and drop them into the broth. And just keep going. Wet our hands. Like so. Flatten them out, and in it goes. And just keep going. Probably have, I don't know, about a dozen fish balls here when we're done. A little messy, but that's part of the charm. Doesn't matter if your fish balls are sitting on top of the broth or whether they're actually sunk in it, because once we finish making them all, we will cover the pot and the steam will do a lot of the work. So don't worry about that at all. Just keep going. Try to keep them more or less the same size and shape, but that's not critical to the flavor at all. One of our heads. See it here? And the way we stuff that is very simple. Like so. This goes in. Like that. Smooth it out. It's very nice. That goes right there. On top of everything else. We'll do one more. Finally, we cover this all up and we put it on a low flame for 1.5 hours. So it's been 1.5 hours. Let this cool down a little bit. Let's see what we have. Ooh, very nice. Here's our gefilte fish. We'll let this cool down for at least 2 more hours. It takes a long time to cool down because of all of the sugar and the fat content. And we'll come back and we'll decant this off into a serving dish. So here we are. We're ready to remove the fish from our pot. They're very fragile. So the best way to do this is with 2 spoons. Use 1 spoon to move it onto the other spoon and lay it down. And just keep going like that, from one piece to the next. Here's our head. Put that down. We'll now pour the sauce off into a separate dish. And this will actually gel up in the refrigerator in we'll come back and see it when it becomes solid. Here is our gefilte fish, our stuffed fish, ready to serve for a festive meal. You can see that we've decorated each piece with a slice of carrot to add some color. The fish roe, the fish eggs have gone sort of an orangey pinkish color, which is beautiful. Gefilte fish is served cold and usually goes with this lovely horseradish beet relish called grain and some nice fish jelly. So there you have it. Enjoy.